House. More courage because you helped create those 8 priorities. Give yourselves a round of applause. So here's what I would tell you. I'm running for Speaker of the House, and it's an uphill battle. Here's why. I talked to members on the phone, and a lot of members are afraid of that perceived power. I'm not saying all the members, by the way. I want to be very clear, not all the members. But there are members that have this fear of the perceived power, that if they vote wrong for Speaker of the House or on Democrat chairs, that they will be punished and held accountable. I have talked to some that physically told me on the phone that they're afraid to do that. These are people that are close to the current speaker. Think about it. Is that how you think a speaker should be? I don't. I don't think that that's what's intended. I think the speakership should be the least coveted position in the Texas House, a servant to the 200 or so thousand people they work for, and a servant to 149 other members. Voters are here, legislators are here, and the speaker should be at the bottom of the heap as a servant to 149 other members, and there shouldn't be a ton of power in the speakership, period. So here's what you're going to see. You're going to see another vote coming up on the House floor. You're going to be able to find out where your legislators stand. How do they feel about supporting a speaker that let the Democrats go? Think about that. Let the Democrats go. I went to the Speaker of the House 2 hours before the Democrats left, and he told me he had it under control. I wanted to do a call of the House. Every day almost, and I think Brian Slayton can tell you, we were up at the front mic beating the parliamentarians and the speaker up every day saying, let's go arrest him, let's go detain him, here's how the rules allow you, and he refused to do it. Not only that, the day they got back, guess where the current Speaker of the House was? Hugging the Democrats, taking pictures. Freshmen had their arm around me and said, this is disgusting. And I sadly had to say, welcome to the Texas House. That's what happens in your Texas House. It's not my Texas House. So what I'm going to leave you with is this. Love and respect everyone in this room and the people that couldn't be here that affiliate with our party, including the members of the Texas House. My ask to you is to reach out to those members and tell them what you want and tell them what you expect. There's a difference. Hey, I really want you to do this, these 8 or 10 things, but here's what I expect you to do. If it's voting for me, that's fine. If it's voting for the 8 priorities or 7 of the 8 individually when you call these members, my hope is that everything you tell them revolves around 8 things. Because look, I revolve around those 8 things. So if you tell them you want all 8 priorities, you're essentially telling them you want me too. So I'm asking you. I work for you. I'm asking you. I don't get to tell you what to do. I'm imploring and begging you to go to your legislators and tell them what you expect. They work for you. Precinct chairs, remind the voters of that when you're knocking doors. We work for the people of Texas. It's not the other way around. I pledge to you, if I become the Speaker of the House, that those priorities will come across the line. We'll have true victories. They won't be watered down, and this will be the first time that you will be the happiest person with an R next to your name since the state of Texas has had the legislature. Now, I'm going to go in the back and hug on my kids and love on them, and then we're going to spend a wonderful day in Austin and go home tomorrow. But thank you for what you guys are doing. I love and respect everyone. Thank you for what you guys do. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'll recognize Representative Brian Slayton.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. There's some good-looking T-shirts out here. Those are impressive. Impressive. I just hope members of the legislature can read. Right? But anyway, like I say, I'm proud to be here with you. And just to tell you how exciting it is right now, this is how it's supposed to be, right? The way I saw it in the past is we had Republican Party being led by the elected officials, and of course, what were they always asking us to do? Well, let's not fight today. Let's always wait for the next election. No, let's not put up a fight today when we have a chance against the Democrats to actually influence policy. Let's just make sure we win the next election. And it's old, it's tired, but to see y'all leading the party, I love it. I want to encourage you to keep being bold, because this is how it's supposed to be. Y'all inspire me, and y'all encourage me to go get into a fight. I'm just telling you, if all it was just me, it could get discouraging. But because y'all are being so bold and leading on things like the band Democrat chair, it's wonderful. It gives me hope. It gives me inspiration. So keep doing it. And of course, we're getting ready for that vote on day 3 to ban Democrat chairman. I'm ready for that fight. And then also, I mean, just to tell you, last year, some of y'all know this, I voted against the speaker who didn't have an opponent. And apparently you're not supposed to do that. Hey, my freshman orientation failed, okay? But guess what? I was talking to the speaker and asking him, are you going to support the RPT priorities? No answer. Actually, all the speaker candidates. And then I was asking him about Democrat chairman. Are you going to appoint Democrat chairman? What's your plan there? Crickets. I felt like I was honoring Plank 233 by voting no. And I'm ready for this session to support Tony Tinderholt for speaker. Because it is a very short-sighted goal, a very short-sighted philosophy to say, I'm going to vote for whoever won the caucus so I can turn around and vote for the person that's going to thumb their nose up at the RPT priorities. That's a pretty failed philosophy to have in your decision to vote. I support you. I support the platform. I support the Republican voters. It is a very easy decision who I'm voting for speaker. And it's Tony Tinderholt. And I thank y'all for your leadership. Keep being bold. Keep being brave, because y'all are going to help lead us in the charge against who is our enemy? The Democrats. Their godless, morally bankrupt philosophy. Their politics. We have to fight them. We can't fight them while promoting them to positions they don't earn on election day. So thank you all very much. Chairman Rinaldi, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Whose phone is this? It is? When were you up here?
He was checking out the office.
There you go. That's a good point. I would have kept it. No. I call upon Scott Bowen to present the Resolutions Committee reports. Oh, you could have just come and grabbed it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the Resolutions Committee, we considered over a dozen resolutions that were submitted mostly by SRECs and county parties. Some of those resolutions are going to be presented to you today. And so as I promised Virgil to tell you that if you have amendments to those resolutions, don't wait until the resolution comes up. Go ahead and send them to him now at cruzv@att.net so that he'll have them when we vote on them. But could the members of our committee who worked so hard to get these resolutions before you today please stand up? And thank you so much for your hard work. There are a couple of committee members that I really want to recognize for all the hard work they did too. The vice chair of the Resolutions Committee, Chris Bird, who also chaired the subcommittee on Legislative Priority 233. Thank you so much. And Naomi Narvaez chaired the subcommittee on motions to censure. So thank you as well for your thoughtful consideration. I also want to, as always, thank Virgil Cruz for all of his hard work in that committee meeting. And he keeps us all on track. He types as we talk, and that's the hardest job in the party. And then finally, Virgil and Fernando Trevino were yesterday's Christmas Plaid Caucus. We all worked together to get these resolutions in a presentable format. So staying late after the committee meetings to get that done. So thank you all for your help with that. So we have a lot of work ahead. We have a legislative session coming. We have, which that'll mean lots of resolutions. There will probably be more requests from county parties for motions to censure. There will also be requests for endorsements in the May local elections. And so we've got a lot of work ahead. And the good news, though, is that Montgomery County is going to be fixed by then, and so we won't have to hear about that. But our job as a committee is to help you do what you want to do. So whether we necessarily agree or disagree, we are trying to make the resolutions as strong of statements as we can about our position as an SREC. And so we're always here to advise. And going forward, as we start getting resolutions, I'll have a live folder going so that we can add them in, and all of you can see them as they come in and review them, so that we're not waiting until Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. But that may also involve outside meetings of the Resolutions Committee as we go through the next few months. But we'll definitely have a full agenda at our next SREC meeting. About motions to censure, I've been sent those by various county parties, and the subcommittee did a lot of investigation into the ones we've gotten so far. Make sure to advise your county parties about what the process is, and also make sure to tell them to keep documentation of every step of the process. Really know Rule 44, and if you have a question about it or they have a question about it, talk to me, talk to Steve, talk to our parliamentarians so that we can help you walk through that process and let your county parties know what they need, whether that's evidence of notice requirements, vote totals, quorums. The Resolutions Committee is going to need all of that information so that if we put a resolution before the body, it can survive a point of order. So definitely keep that in mind and work with your county parties if that's something they're looking to do. And so finally, going into our report, we have two difficult items first that both went through subcommittees. And then we have a lot of resolutions that deal with issues that I think will be less controversial and more agreeable to us all. So we've got our work, and then we've got a little bit of a downhill after that. But with that, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of a resolution regarding Texas House leadership as projected.
It is moved that the resolution regarding Texas House leadership be adopted. I believe first, Chris Byrd has an amendment. Chris chaired the subcommittee dealing with this, and this has been the resolution. We've been focused on working out the language just right, and Chris has a perfecting amendment for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I would like to ask each of my subcommittee members to stand just very quickly. And I say that because we did spend a lot of time on this issue. This particular matter is addressing what we've heard a lot about over the last 2 days, that being banning Democrat chairs. That is actually our priority number 5, so very important matter, and we already have our Plank 233, which addresses that, but obviously because of the complexities in front of us, it was felt like we do in fact need a clarifying resolution, and that being the one that's before you. I also thank Matthew Patrick and whoever else worked with Matthew for our original document, which I believe when that was sent around to you in your packets had one copy that was redlined. So we did begin with that and did some minor cleanup. But what we have today, we've just continued to deal with some, what does all this mean and what would be possible unintended consequences. The committee felt like very strongly that it was, we've made some bold statements. We've made some righteous, bold statements and calls and expectations and policy positions and that sort of thing. So the penultimate resolve, that being, be it further resolved that the SREC does not support any Republican who does not support Plank 233 in its entirety, is a penalty, if you will, in response to the resolve right before. But after looking at all of the complexities with it and the unintended consequences, I can report to you that our subcommittee has unanimously agreed with the amendment that I would propose, and that would be, where it says any Republican, for it to say any speaker candidate. So we would simply strike Republican and in its place put speaker candidate. The thinking there being is that that leaves the focus where it needs to be. It also maintains the emphasis on why we're here and what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. So I believe everybody on our subcommittee was in favor of it, as well as others, and that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. What's that? Susan? This is the underlined language. Are there any discussion on the amendment? Okay. All in favor of adopting the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Now we are discussing the resolution as amended. Is there any discussion? We got 3 for, 3 against. Who wants to go first? And please indicate up front, obviously, SREC district, but also whether you're speaking for or against. You got to flip the switch on the back, I think. No. What's that sound?
That worked. Becky Green, SD 17. I propose an amendment to this resolution. One second. I propose that we strike the 5th and 6th whereas clauses in this resolution. The 5th one reads, whereas the current speaker used the support of very liberal Democrats to ignore the GOP caucus, et cetera. And also the 6th one that says, whereas the speaker has publicly defended his choice to put some of the most liberal Democrats in Texas, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Do you want me to speak to that now?
Let's put the motion up there.
It needs a
Is
second.
there a second?
Jim Pickle, SD8.
Okay. Second by Jim Pickle. Recognize Becky Green.
Every word in this amendment I agree with, or in this resolution I agree with, and I think every statement in here is true, and it's probably been greatly toned down by committee. However, I was receiving phone calls last night, late into the night, by some of our allies in the Texas legislature. These are not rhinos, folks. These are our people in the Texas legislature. We talk on SREC amongst ourselves. The Texas legislature talks amongst themselves. And they talk about the SREC and what we're doing. And folks, they're paying attention. These are our people that are going to pass our bills, our platform, our LPs. They do not want us to come out of the gate this legislative session and poke the Speaker of the House in the eye to the point where they can't help us anymore get anything else done. Words matter. Just because something is true doesn't mean that this is the time and the place and the way to say it. We have got to be smart, we've got to be wise, and we've got to understand what we're dealing with here. This language is not helpful, even though it's true.
Jill?
Jill Glover, SD 12, and I speak against this amendment, and the reason I do so is because, first of all, this is a speaker's second session. He knows what is important to us. He knows how important these priorities are. Most of them passed with over 80% of almost 2 million people back on the ballot propositions in March. Regarding the chairmanships by some of these Democrat chairs, we have 8 of those Democrats who are on the LGBT caucus. They are some of the most liberal Democrats in the House, and they absolutely have no business being in leadership positions when Republicans own the majority of the House and Senate as well. So I say this is the Speaker's issue respectfully. He had a choice. He has a choice if he is voted in again, whether or not he can put Democrats as chairs. And I think it's important to send him a very clear message on behalf of our Republican constituents. Thank you.
Hi, Deborah Kelting, Fight, SD7. Okay.
I got to go to Jim. I don't mean you go over there, but like Jim is next.
Oh.
I'm going to call on
okay,
Jim.
good. I'm sorry. Ladies aren't first.
Are you for or against the amendment?
Jim Pickle, SD8. I'm for the amendment. While I agree with Jill Glover that these things are true and we need to send a strong message, I can't help but agree more with Ms. Green because, again, they are listening to us. We're not in a vacuum here. The legislature knows what we're doing. We send these legislative priorities to them. We've sent it to them in paper and electronic form. They know what we're talking about. The last thing you need to do, really, when you want to get somebody on your side is alienate them. So for instance, that's what Democrats do. Name calling, right? Is that really effective? Have you ever changed your mind because somebody called you a name? No. That's not how you do it. We're not necessarily using sugar here, but we're not necessarily going to whack them over the head either. I do not think that's effective advocacy, and I think when I go down there and talk to these people, and if I have to go into Phelan's office and talk to him, and this is one of our resolutions, he's going to look at me with a more jaundiced eye. He's going to have less respect for what I say because I've already attacked him, and nobody likes that. Your radar comes up. Nobody listens to you after that. I think Becky's right. We got to keep these people on our side as much as we can, and gratuitous slams against them that affect no purpose should not be in our resolutions. So I vote against, or vote for the amendment.
Hi.
Hey, let me do Deborah and then David.
Thank you. Deborah Kelting, Fight, SD7. I'm speaking against. Truth wins. And it's an insult to the voters that we have a speaker that would not allow transitioning children with irreversible surgeries. That's not who we are. We have a chairman that gives public education to Democrats. Look what's happening in our schools. We're fighting against teaching kindergartners transitioning and LGBTQ. So I think that we have to make a bold statement because these are bold policies that he is endorsing.
David?
David Covey, SD3, speaking on this against the amendment. when Jim mentioned that they pay attention to us, I thought I'd get up and say something. I've been trying to get a meeting with Dave Phelan, who's my state rep, for a month, and not getting a call back. So if they're listening, then this might give me a meeting, Jim. So, but we've done things like this before. There's a time and a place, but here the speaker still has a choice to make on his upcoming appointments. And so we're getting out ahead of this and reinforcing our position. The voters have voted on this, and 82% passed on a proposition, and the 18% against them were state reps that voted against it. So I think that this is safe. This is something that we can do that has some teeth, but it's not directly. We're not calling out by name, but the language has been worked out very delicately and carefully. And I think that this is something that we can support as it is without the amendment.
Rachel?
Mr. Speaker, I'm Rachel Horton, Senate District 30, and I rise to speak against the amendment. The Resolutions Committee on this particular issue has put together an incredible resolution. There was should not be any issue with this. And the things that have been said by my fellow against the amendment are all absolutely accurate. And even, I believe SREC Green, who presented the amendment, also noted that this is the truth. And if we as SRECs, as the board of directors for the Republican Party of Texas, who are holding the party accountable, if we can't state the truth when it matters, when it comes down to it, then why do we have a party? We stand on principles, we stand on values, and when you have leadership in the House who cannot admit to the things and the actions that they have done in public in the past, then this is something we absolutely need to maintain in our resolutions. So I urge failure of the amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
Karen?
Karen Marshall, SD 26. Point of personal privilege. Could you
Is that
zoom?
what you mean?
Could you make the font bigger?
Yeah.
I'm having
Point
a
of
hard time reading.
information.
And okay. Point of information. If you could make the font bigger, and I can't see. It says some part is green, but I can't tell. Oh. Oh, that explains it.
What is it?
Because I don't
Oh.
see any green.
That's kind of funny. Krista, do you want to say something? You're good? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll now vote on the amendment. And I vote in favor of the green amendment, which is red. No. So the amendment would strike the language, whereas the current speaker in the support of very liberal Democrats to ignore the GOP caucus process last session and declared the race is over prior to a caucus vote, and whereas the speaker publicly defended his choice to put some of the most liberal Democrats in charge of 40% of the House committees, the amendment would strike that language. An aye vote is in favor of the amendment to strike the language. An against vote is to keep the language. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All against? Nay. The amendment fails. The noes have it. Now we are on discussion on the resolution. Kristen, do you want to talk on the resolution?
Yes. Kristen Bentley, SD1. I just want to say that we just heard from two people in the legislature who I think we all support, all respect, all love, including Brian Slayton, who's in my Senate district, who we all just love. But this morning we also heard from different speakers, including our chairman, and there were several things that I wrote down that stood out to me that I just want to repeat. As a body, we are to provide guidance. Our role is above our personal opinion. We should be a voice of reason. We should be united in advancing our platform. And so what I ask you is, does this do that? And I would say 100% that it does. The way that we have written the resolve language is that we are standing for the principles. We are advancing the platform, and we are removing the personalities. And we are saying that the expectation is that anyone who is running for speaker adhere to the plank in its entirety. And the reason that we do that is that we want no Democrat chairs. And we are allowing them, some of the ones who have not had the courage to sign on to that, we are allowing them to have another opportunity that is supporting them in that decision, to have courage. And we are being fair and reasonable. And so I ask that you support the language in full because it is principled. Thank you.
Jill?
Mr. Speaker, I just had a quick question. Jill Glover, SD 12. Point of information, please.
Yes.
You were in the legislature when, and you were part of making this rule. Would you speak to it a little bit, into the intent?
Is there anything specific? I don't want to speak for or against, but
Could you just speak to the intent of what you think that you all made the rule?
the caucus rule?
The caucus rule.
Process that's in the 233?
That's correct.
Yeah, it was 2017 we did it, and the problem that we had was we had a speaker who was elected with a minority of Republicans and all Democrats, effectively. So the Democrats chose the speaker, and we were thinking of how Republicans could choose the speaker. And that idea was we would have a selection in a caucus like the U.S. Congress does, and that would keep Democrats from having influence over the process. When that did not occur because the speaker announced Democrats support the day after the election and said that the race is over, Democrats very much did have an effect on the caucus vote. So that didn't work. We realized the problem is having Democrats in the power base in the first place, which is how banning Democrat chairs became a movement now, all for the same purpose, to keep Democrats out of the process and influencing it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to amend by striking the second to the last, be it resolved.
Which one?
That one.
Just strike it all together? Okay. So this would strike that be it resolved. Be it further resolved that the SREC does not support any speaker candidate who does not support Plank 233 in its entirety.
Correct.
Is there a second? I think I heard Karen. Second. Open for discussion. Do you want to speak on it?
Mr. Chairman, 233A says that the members will vote in caucus. They have. It says that they'll support on the floor whatever their choice is in caucus. Now, if we call for support of 233 in its entirety, are we not saying now that anybody who runs for speaker or supports a speaker outside of the caucus we're not going to support them? Are we saying we're not going to support Mr. Tinderholt because he's a speaker candidate? He would be in violation of 233A because he doesn't support the caucus vote. I think it covers entirely too much. I'm fine with the rest of the language. I'm fine with 233B
In fact, I could actually amend this to suit me, but I'm fine with 233B. That covers Democrat chairs. It covers leaving the session, but 233A is simply supporting the caucus vote, which they have done, and they have picked their speaker.
Anyone else? For or against? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor of the amendment removing the highlighted language, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Can you guys do it by standing vote? All in favor of removing the highlighted language, please stand up. And raise your hand if you have a proxy. Oh, you did? 1, 2. Okay, it looks like the ayes have it. Did you count David? Because he was standing for the. You counted David? I don't know if David's for it. David, were you in favor of the amendment or no? You were, okay. Yeah. So the ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. We're back to debate on the resolution as amended. Any further discussion?
Jim Pickle, SD8, point of clarification. In the I'm trying to count them. In plank 223, or excuse me, plank 233, B does not say Republican committee chairs. It says standing committees shall be chaired by the political party in majority, which, as I stand here right now, is us. But if next session, I know we can amend it and make another resolution if we want to, the Democrats take control, then we would be saying we don't want to have any committee chairs at all. We want the Democrats to pick them all. So I would urge maybe that we could amend by striking that no, that's a rule, I know. But strike that section of the resolution, which is the first.
Which one?
I'm counting.
Oh. I'm pretty sure they're still going to
whereas.
not give us any chairs even if we pass the resolution.
You and I probably agree to that. That's probably true. I just wanted to point that, so I said it was a point of information. It's not accurate. It does not accurately depict what 233 says.
How far down? What are you talking about? The SREC stipulates blah, blah, blah. No, okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the previous question.
Moving to all in favor of, well, don't have to take a vote on the previous question. Have to take a vote on whether to close debate, right? Yeah. All in favor of moving the previous question, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now voting on the resolution. We have to do this with the keypad. All in favor of the resolution, please press 1A. All against, please press 2B. All who want to abstain, press 3. Gail, anyone else? No Morgan, Linda, Steve. By a vote of 58 ayes, 5 nays, the ayes have it. The resolution passes. Hold on one second before you do this. Hold on. We did not, before this, adopt a 3-and-3 resolution. Before we move on to the next resolution, would anyone like to propose a supplemental rule? Mr. Moore, go to the mic, please.
Mr. Chairman, Ken Moore, SD 11. I propose we have a supplemental rule. It says 3 for, 3 against.
On amendments and the resolution, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this applies to all resolutions in the rest of the report, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And how many minutes each?
2.
2 minutes each.
I think they would beat it if I don't.
Mr. Chairman, Mike
There's-
McCloskey, Senate District 5. I second that motion.
And it's second by Mike. Are you discussing this? Really?
Yeah.
We're open for debate now.
Okay, yeah.
Wait. It isn't? I'm being told that it's not debatable. Aw.
Okay.
It is amendable. Would you like to amend it?
Yes, I would like to amend it.
Okay, what?
Instead of 3 for, 3 against, 4 on each side.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The nays have it. Fails. All in favor of the 3-and-3 rule, 2 minutes each, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The supplemental rule is adopted. Please proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. On behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution encouraging unity in the Montgomery County Republican Party as projected.
It is moved that the resolution encouraging unity in the Montgomery County Republican Party be adopted. Are you ready to open debate? Yes? Debate is now open. Let me preface this by saying we went into executive session previously. In this debate, please do not refer to any statements made in executive session while talking in the debate. For example, here's a way to argue without doing that, okay? If counsel tells you A and you go to the mic, your argument is not counsel told us A, it is just A. Okay? Make the argument, do not refer to what we were told. Thank you. Steve?
I'm thinking how to do that.
David's a lawyer. He can go first.
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the second to the last, be it further resolved.
The amendment is to strike the second to the last, be it further resolved. Is there a second? Second by Jim Pickle. We're now moving to debate on the amendment. The amendment is to debate the language that says, be it resolved that the State Republican Executive Committee is satisfied that the evidence that the precinct chairs nominated and approved. Second to the last.
That's the one I asked for.
Existing vacancies at the September 6, 2022 Montgomery County Executive Committee meeting were validly appointed and recommends that they be seated and reported to the Secretary of State, but that the State Republican Executive Committee does not at this time have the evidence necessary to take a position on whether appointments made to those seats at meetings prior to September 6, 2022 were valid according to the bylaws. Would you like to speak in favor of your amendment?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. For reasons we're all already aware of, this is a bad idea. Does that satisfy that, Mr. Chairman?
You do good.
Also, there's when you look at this from a parliamentarian's point of view, which I have to, and I'm not going to speak for our parliamentarian, but I think he may concur. One thing I've got to look at first is, did we have a properly construed meeting? And I can't answer that question. A properly construed meeting, the chairman, like him or not, is the presiding officer, must be given notice. The entire executive committee must be given notice. They are the county executive committee. He is the chairman of the county party and has a right to preside unless he doesn't show up. I can't satisfy myself that the December 6th meeting was properly construed, or September, the one that we're attempting to recognize in the stricken language. This picks sides. We have remedies. We have remedies under our election code that we don't like to refer to. We've discussed those recently, what those remedies are. There are pending complaints to the Secretary of State's office that have not been fully adjudicated. All administrative options have to be exhausted before we even think about taking this route. And I am not satisfied that the meeting was properly construed, and it's a legal meeting from what I've read, and I've read all of the supporting documentation. And I think it's ill-advised for us to take a side one way or the other. And Montgomery County needs to get their act together, and they need to work it out. But we can't take this route and choose a side. So for, as previously stated reasons, I think it's ill-advised, and we need to continue to support their efforts for unity, but this is out of our scope. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Dale?
Dale Lindman, SD4, speaking against Mr. Evans' motion.
The amendment, right?
The amendment, I'm sorry, yeah, the amendment to the motion. I think it's critical today. I think Kristen was looking at my notes from SD1. I wrote in my notes today, our chairman has said the word 3 times today, boldly. Tony Tinderholt came up and said boldly. Boldly says ability to take risks confidently and courageously. Everyone agrees in Montgomery County that the September 6th meeting had a proper number of elected in the Republican primary chairs. It was called by the chairs, and those chairs voted that night, and the chairman is always invited to the meetings. The whole CEC is invited. I think we have anywhere between 45 and 65 what we would call grassroots chairs calling meetings, 45 to 65% of the total, that called this meeting. The chair was invited. He didn't show up. We elected a chair that night to chair the meeting. We conducted business. We're simply asking, and we're not even asking, we're not demanding, we're not requiring, we're simply saying we recommend. We're actually asking for no action from this body. Newton's first law of thermodynamics says that a body at rest tends to stay at rest. I've heard last session and this session that we met, so many people say, well, we don't want to take action, we don't want to take action, we don't want to take action. We're an executive committee. We take action. And I just get this constant dragging our heels. How do we get out of any type of action? Asking a recommendation that properly vacated precinct chairs by a clear majority of the elected and the primary Republican precinct chairs voted on, I don't think that's a big ask. That we're recommending the chair to recognize them. Does that say 1 minute? Or does that say done? Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless Texas.
David?
Mr. Chairman, David Covey, SD3. I'm speaking in favor of this motion. As an executive body established in the election code under Chapter 171.001, the SREC is an independent executive body. County executive committees are separate, and so for us to weigh in this precise way on this would extend ourselves, especially when we're claiming that we're satisfied with details which we are not fully appraised of. And so we need to be aware of the facts. And our committee has already, the chairman has spoken about potentially looking into this more. There are more details that we need. The meeting on the 6th here was called on the meeting called by the steering committee. Well, then you have to go back to the July 23rd meeting and see was the steering committee correctly appointed, and then you have to go back and look at the bylaws and dissect the bylaws. We simply have not had the time to do that in what we're giving, and so weighing in on this is not appropriate for our body, and so I'm speaking in favor of striking this. The rest of it addresses the issue clearly, and we encourage them to take action. And action has been taken. We last meeting approved mediation, which did occur, although not maybe to our liking, but it did occur. We are taking steps. There are current complaints at the SOS, and so we need to let that play, and we can come back and address this. I do want to say this. Oh, thank you.
Gwen?
Gwen Withrow, Senate District 4, against the amendment. Every month I have to look in the eyes of precinct chairs who are frustrated by our county party chair's lack of willingness to do his job. They have asked Dale and I to bring this resolution forward, hopes that the SREC, by doing the right thing, can help us unify our party and resolve the problems in our county. We are asking for a bold statement. I didn't really understand all the executive instructions were given to us by the chair, but apparently I have to hire an attorney to prove that I am the precinct chair for 72. Thank you.
Jim?
Jim Pickle, SD8, speaking in favor of the amendment. Also, as a lawyer, I'm looking at this, and this body is an executive body. It is not a court. Courts don't make findings of fact or conclusions of law or render judgments. I mean, courts do make findings of fact and conclusions of law and render judgments. Executives don't. If you guys look at this, it says the state Republican Executive Committee, all of us are satisfied by the evidence. How many people in here, by show of hands, have seen all the evidence? No. Nobody's seen all the evidence. Or very few of us have. And then we say we're taking a position that these votes on these precinct chairs down there were validly appointed. Y'all realize that in Montgomery County, some of those precincts down there have stacked chairs. In other words, two people are claiming they're the chair of the same precinct. We're siding with this, one of the sides that says the people we elected are validly appointed. We don't know that, and it isn't our call to make, because we're not a court and we're not an executive committee running Montgomery County. So we can't make that call. And then it goes on to say a little later on, I love the fact that they separated a little, at least by a few more words. It says, us do not at this time have the evidence necessary to take a position on whether appointments to those seats prior to September 6th were valid. So we're saying they're valid, we recognize they're valid, but we don't have enough evidence to see if they're valid. Which is it? It's confusing. And we're not a court. I'll say that every time I get up here. We are not a court. We're an advisory executive agency and club. We are not a court. We do not make findings. We do not side with one side or the other. Thank you.
I'd rather just deal with it. We have time. One more against, if anyone's speaking against the amendment.
I'm speaking against Steve's.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm speaking at Deborah Kelting Fight, SD7. I am the SREC for a portion of Montgomery County. I have followed these meetings. Unfortunately, I had in my anniversary dinner, I had my phone on to listen to these meetings. That was a circus. If you want the facts, here's the facts. I have all the facts. They have been laid out. The officials committee has arbitrated with Matt Rinaldi, and Patrick went in for an arbitration, and so they have been, a lot of the information has been released to you. What's happening here is the grassroots have been overridden, and if you look at the last meeting of about 54, there were 10 precinct chairs, that's it, 10 precinct chairs siding with the county chair, Crest. All the rest of the members were grassroots members. And so if we don't intervene and protect our grassroots, then we're going to end up losing our party to establishment.
Okay, that was 3-4-3 against. We'll now vote on
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of information.
Yes.
I want to make clear, has there been a time when Montgomery County has come before a previous SREC with a similar type of situation?
Chair is not advised.
I think there are people who were present who were members at that time that would probably say it has occurred.
They can't, they can't answer a point of information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. All in favor of the amendment, voting in favor of the amendment would strike the language in red on the board. Voting against would keep the language as it was written. All in favor of the amendment striking the language, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. I think the ayes have it. The amendment fails. Oh, the amendment passes. I'm sorry. Sorry, I was thinking, I was going over that. I was going over the voices in my head again. So next one. We are now on the amendment, the underlying resolution. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
as amended.
I have an amendment.
Okay.
Francisco Kiko Canseco, SD 26, and it would be a preambular type of an amendment. The last wherefore should read whereas the SREC and the Republican Party of Texas has offered guidance to the parties in Montgomery County, now, therefore, and continue. But it would be using the word guidance, that we've offered guidance and not any kind of obligatory decision-making on our part.
Who's second? Second, Steve Evans. The motion is to add the underlined whereas. Whereas the Republican Party, whereas the SREC and the Republican Party of Texas should be have offered guidance.
Has offered. Or
SREC and the Republican Party
yeah, okay, have offered.
Have offered guidance to the parties in Montgomery County. Seconded by Steve Evans. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
If I may talk about the amendment?
Of course you may.
All right. I think it's very important that we underline what the role of the SREC and the RPT is with regards to the conflict in Montgomery County, where we offer guidance and not any kind of ruling or resolution, and leave the last resolve the way it is, that clarifies that an official copy, that the SREC does not support any, hold on, where are we? Be it further resolved that the State Republican Executive Committee requests that all county executive committees follow the Texas Election Code and Republican Party of Texas rules and the bylaws of which each executive committee to govern its conduct. There are rules in place, both in the election code, within the RPT rules and regulations that should guide them on how to handle the conflict that's there, and does not place the SREC or the RPT in any position where it's ruling one way or the other on this matter, and stepping on the toes of any court or any other body that should be making those decisions.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Yes, Scott.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to this amendment.
Okay.
This would remove the State Republican Executive Committee and then it would change have to has.
Motion is to remove State Republican Executive Committee, second by Steve Evans. The amendment's acceptable to the author. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the amendment's adopted. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. Now we're on the amendment specifically. Anyone want to speak in favor or against the amendment, which is to add whereas the State Republican whereas the Republican Party of Texas has offered guidance to the parties in Montgomery County. No discussion. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Once that was removed, I basically feel that there is no meat of content associated with this resolution at all, and it is a waste of our time to pass it in any way, and therefore I am against the resolution.
Do you have a motion to go along with that, such as to recommit?
Yes, I have a motion to recommit.
Is there a second? Second by Kristen Bentley. All in favor of the motion to recommit, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Nays have it.
Andy Hopper, proxy for Dave Wiley, SD12. I move that we change the word unity to amity in the title for this, because I don't believe, oh, I'm sorry, let me say 4 in a minute.
Anonymity?
Amity. Well,
Amenability?
AMITY is a word. Amicability is a synonym.
You're only allowed to use words we all know. Really? I know he is.
No.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second by Britton. You can speak on your amendment.
Okay, so here's an interesting fact. A county chair who shall not be named actually reached out on a chat for the County Chairs Association, and there was only one other county chair in that entire group that actually supported the idea that we should ban Democrat committee chairs. So while we've done a great job at the party, at the county level, we are not encouraging unity among the parties. We are encouraging a fight for our principles, a fight for our party principles. So we need to make sure that we do not use a word like unity, which is the talking point of many in the establishment, to say that we should blindly get behind whatever it means as long as red is the color.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes.
Would this change make Montgomery County the Amityville Horror?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to offer an amendment.
Well, first if there's no discussion on the amendment to make it amity, all in favor of the amendment, Andy Hopper's amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. With like 20 abstentions who didn't know the word. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the very first action that we took, which was to strike the penultimate resolve, I
Where is it?
personally think that it does have some meat in it. However, I would suggest that we lift it in its entirety.
Which resolve, the last one?
The penultimate resolve that was stricken.
Okay.
And that we move it up to become the last whereas. And in place of that beginning, as it reads now, it would just simply say, whereas evidence has been presented to the State Republican Executive Committee, that, and then we continue on with the merits of the language. And that's a truthful statement. Evidence, in fact, has been presented to the SREC. It's not making a comment one way or the other about that.
Can you come here and
Yes.
help him word it on the screen? Is there a second? Second by Dale Inman.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes.
Susan Wright, SD10.
Yes.
Is this a request to reinsert an item that's already been stricken, therefore a motion to reconsider?
That's also the point of order that Steve's biting on his glasses thinking about right now. But the answer is no. It wouldn't be because it's changing it to a whereas, so it is not. It is not reinserting the same language for the same function.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it was. That's denied. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, that's fine. We can do it darker. I'm gonna get started while they're putting it up, as long as they have it up for when you vote. The language is still in the crossed out portion. It's just basically adding it as a whereas. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to speak against the motion, but do we want to have the maker of the motion speak first?
You could.
Or the mover, I guess is the right
Hey,
word.
Chris, do you want to speak first?
God, I can't see that.
Hey, does anyone have an extra copy of the property tax paper that packet that Don Huffines handed out? I don't know if someone took more than one. If they did, Gail would like a copy. We got a bunch. Yeah, no, it is on his website. She just wanted a paper copy. Yeah. Okay. Chris, would you like to speak on your amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The reason for this is because it's my understanding that, in fact, evidence has been presented to this body. It then takes up with the rest of the language, and it does put some of the meat back in, which I'm very sensitive to your comments, ma'am. And it offers some explanation as to why we're doing what we're doing today.
Go ahead.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mike McCluskey, Senate District 5. Now I get to speak to this. Here we go again. This, what I tried to make a point before, that I can now make a point under this is not the first time that the SREC has dealt with this county. Out of 254 counties in Texas, we probably spent more time on Montgomery County than probably any other county specifically in the years I've been involved with the SREC. And then the issue then was almost exactly the issue now. And if we're going to continue to foster this, I can tell you there are people in Texas who are trying to turn our other counties into Montgomery County. We need to resist that. We need to not let this happen and become, active all over our state. And by, being involved in this way, I'm not satisfied to vote and say this is the only series of events that have happened in Montgomery County. And I asked some questions prior to this resolution coming up today that I'm not satisfied, and I don't think this should be included. I think we need to communicate that we do want them to resolve their differences, but I don't think we need to put our thumb on the scale. Thank you.
Matt Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Patrick, SC 16. I want to clear up a couple of things real quick. First, I was going to rise at the previous comments when we were striking this language. Mr. Pickle was making the point that only courts make findings of facts or rulings and that executive bodies do not. That is incorrect, Jim. Executive bodies find facts and examine facts and make decisions and make rulings all the time. The fact that it's not taking place in the courthouse does not make those decisions null and void, doesn't make them wrong, doesn't mean they don't happen. They happen all the time. So to pretend that this body shouldn't be finding facts or shouldn't be making rulings is absolutely incorrect. It is our duty, and having served on a board of directors of a publicly traded company, we did this all the time. We do have a job, it's part of our job description, to examine the facts that are presented to us and to make decisions about what is best for the Republican Party of Texas and try to assist the county parties in making proper decisions too. So we should be making this decision. That is absolutely incorrect to pretend that we should not. Second of all, I support, to get to this point, I support the motion to put this back in as a whereas. The committee examined quite a lot of evidence. They had all the information that they needed. With respect, some of the people were not on the committee. I was not, although I observed it when I was there. And I think that this is something that's important to be in there. It's important to continue to help move the sides towards each other. And striking this will not move the sides toward each other. It will actually exacerbate the problem and continue to let it fester. That's exactly what one side wants. So please put this back in. It's important that we add it back in. Thank you.
Steve.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Evans, SD 28. I move to postpone indefinitely further consideration of this resolution.
Not in order in the middle of an amendment, but you can re-urge it when we get to the.
I'm moving for the amendment and for the consideration, so I can postpone the amendment and the full as one package. I can kick it out.
The amendment would be.
Oh, yes, I can.
Yeah, you're right. We got, we have 2 for, 1 against so far.
Against.
Order, please.
It is my Kiko Canseco, SD 26. It is my understanding that the two parties have moved away against each other and are all lawyered up. Based on that, I am very, very cautious about putting this SREC into a situation where we are going to be claiming that we stood in a position of trying to adjudicate a dispute when we were only trying to mediate it and maybe even shouldn't have mediated it, and that we are saying that we have heard evidence. I am against it for that reason, and I don't want us being deposed as to what type of evidence we produce. So I am against using that language.
Okay. Jill, are you for or against?
I am for.
And then Dale, you're for. Do you want Jill to go or do you want to do it?
Jill might
Up
be
to
better.
you guys. Okay.
Jill Glover, SD 12, and I am for Chairman SREC Byrd's amendment. Chairman, you have gone to Montgomery County, and SREC Patrick has gone to Montgomery County. We were asked to do that. We did that. We did that well. You both gave us, or you gave us a report back, Mr. Patrick, from Montgomery County. We have gotten evidence. I think it is important to give a resolution, give some support to these precinct chairs. We do see this going on all around the state, and I think it is important that we respond, and I am quite satisfied with the amendment that Mr. Byrd has offered, and so I would say that we need to adopt this. Thank you, sir.
Tom?
I wish to make an amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
Where in as much as recommendations do not belong in the whereases, I would strike from and recommends that they be seated and reported to the Secretary of State. Up until, yeah, I think you need the but, still need the but there. Take away the and leave the but.
You're just deleting the recommends
Mm-hmm.
language to
Right.
the, and reported to the Secretary.
Right.
So you continue on.
Yes.
Okay. The highlighted, the amendment would delete the highlighted language. Yes?
Mr. Chair, as the author of the amendment, I would be happy to accept that change. That was an oversight on my part.
Okay. It's acceptable to the author of the amendment. Are there any objections to crossing out the highlighted language? That's the amendment to the amendment. Any objections? Do you object? Okay, there is an objection. So Tom, do you want to speak on your amendment, to the amendment?
Again, like I had said before, if there's a whereas clause to a resolution, recommending an action within that is not, I believe, proper to the resolution. Whereas or action taken should be left into the therefore resolves.
Anyone else to speak on the amendment to the amendment? John? I think John's coming up, and then we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Carr, SD 22. If we are to provide guidance, then we need to actually provide the guidance. Recommending that they take an action doesn't say you must take this action. If we take the position that we're going to assist Montgomery County in resolving its issue, then we need to give them a way of doing so. It may face some opposition, but at least we're providing the guidance to them, and that is take this action and to help get this thing resolved.
Okay, anyone else on the?
I'm speaking against, I'm against taking that language out.
The amendment to just the highlighted sentence.
Just the highlighted portion.
Right. We're speaking on the amendment to the amendment only, and that's whether or not the highlighted language is going to remain in.
Jim Pickle, SD8, we need to take that language out for two reasons. Number one, it's right, it's a recommendation clause. It doesn't belong in a whereas. That's a procedural point. But think about this for a minute. What does the proponent of this resolution want it for? They want the SREC to come along and say, I'm on your side. Because then they can take that back to their CEC and say, look, even the SREC agrees with me. We're putting our whole leg on the scale if we do this. And with all due respect, Mr. Patrick, executive committees are not courts. They can make decisions within their committee, but they do not make binding findings, rulings that affect anybody outside that company. And the CEC in Montgomery County has all of the tools it needs without us
keep it to
weighing
the amendment on the amendment, and then we're going to do the amendment.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
Which is the whole language.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure you were relevant to the amendment on the amendment. We didn't confuse things. Anyone else in the amendment to the amendment, which is the highlighted language only?
Speak for?
Whether or not to remove it. The amendment to the amendment would remove it. You're speaking for?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I speak, Rolando Garcia, SD15. I speak in favor of removing the language recommending that they be seated and reported to the Secretary of State. I was on the Resolutions Committee and on the subcommittee that approved this language. And even the language that we were willing to approve yesterday, which is right up there, it is so cautious. Okay, I don't have enough time to get into the weeds, but what we're saying is, okay, based on the evidence that we have, we think that precinct chairs approved on September 6th are valid unless they were appointed to precincts that were already filled in the weeks prior to that, because we don't know if they might have been. We don't have, everyone's saying we have all the evidence, we don't have all the evidence. So that was the first caveat. The second caveat is, again, based on the evidence that was presented yesterday, we think the ones approved on 9/6, some of them we think with 51% confidence were valid. But even that point is in dispute, because the other side will say that those appointments were not valid for all sorts of procedural reasons. And to determine the truth of that point, we would need additional information, minutes from the other side's meetings, and minutes from the meetings of both sides prior to 9/6, which we have not seen and which were not discussed, at least not at length, yesterday. So anyone who was on the committee Even this language that we approved yesterday, it was very, very cautious. So based on our limited information, it is not a good idea to then say we recommend reporting this to the Secretary of State. I think we have to be very cautious.
So you're in favor of the amendment to the amendment striking that?
Right.
Okay. Against?
Yes, sir. Gwen Withrow, Senate District 4. I'm speaking in against of adding the yellow, taking out the yellow part of the resolution. We're all in this body, and Dale and I, when we lose a vote, we walk back to our seats and we say, we lost. And we have a chairman that upholds that. But how would you like to be in a county meeting when that's not what happens? When the county chair loses, he walks out and he says the meeting's invalid. So we really need to have a strong amendment resolution sent forward that we can take forward and try to get a answer on when or if these people are the precinct chairs. I would really appreciate if the body would make a bold statement on that.
Dale, last one.
Is everyone against? Done?
This is the last against the amendment.
I would again encourage that we keep the language, just as Gwen said. We're asking that our county chair follows the rules. When we've gone back to saying those who were elected in the Republican primary, only using those chairs, forget anyone that's been vacant, we still have 52, 53 of those people of one. I think at the time there was 99. So we have 60% voting one way. I have seen our chair say, the meeting's adjourned, I'm done, and he walks out when he doesn't have the votes. We're asking that he follows the rules of Robert's rules, our Republican state rules, and our bylaws in Montgomery County. I'm baffled by where this body is so against asking a chair to follow rules. And I've told him the other day, and Brian and I some years ago were personal social friends. That has substantially changed. And I've said, Brian, I'm simply asking you to do what's right. And then when all this other, and a 126-page document was submitted to this body, if you didn't read it, I'm sorry, you have the information. We're the 11th largest county in Texas. We consistently vote the most red. We're fighting like crazy not to turn into Fort Bend County or some other county going purple. And we have people in the party, including the chair, that's working against the grassroots. We're asking for relief from this body to say, we ought to help the grassroots who have a clear majority, and that we're asking the chair to follow the rules that the state has put in, our bylaws have put in Robert's Rules of Order. And when he says, I'm the chair, I'm the power, I'm the king, I agree that the chairman is a servant of the body, not a king of the body. And that's the big issue. In 3 years, our chairman has raised $0 for our local party. He consistently raises money for his wife's private Republican clubs and has raised zero, and says, I won't raise money for the party, it's not my job. I raise money for my wife's clubs, Republican clubs. That is wrong. There's no law that says he can't do that, but I'm asking this body to say, Montgomery County Chairman, we're asking you to follow the rules. That's not a crazy ask. Thank you.
All right, we're now voting on the amendment to the amendment. The amendment to the amendment. This is just the amendment to the amendment, which a yes vote would strike the portion just that's highlighted, that says, and recommends they be seated and reported to the Secretary of State. A no vote would leave the highlighted language in that amendment. All in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. The ayes have it. The amendment to the amendment passes. So that language, can you take out that language? Strike it. Okay. Now we are on the amendment, which we have one. The amendment would put back that whereas clause. We've already had 3 in favor. We have 1 more to speak against.
I'm an against. What are you?
Steve? Steve, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, SD 28, Steve Evans. An end around this body's will and motion to strike doesn't make this any prettier. As I debated earlier, all of you were made aware of the repercussions of adopting that language. putting it up and moving it up a little bit doesn't change, and it doesn't change the intent, and it doesn't make it better, and it doesn't fix it. In fact, I would argue that we've got this resolution so screwed up, I intend to make a motion to postpone it in just a minute when we dispose of this amendment. I'm asking you to vote against this, and as you've already done, and see if we can clean this back up.
All right. We had 3-4-3 against. Debate on the amendment is closed. The amendment would add the underlying language to the whereas provision. All in favor of the amendment adding the underlying language, please indicate by standing. I'm going to do a standing vote. I'm not going to get into that. See, then you all blame me when I make the ruling. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, please seat. Anyone against the amendment, please indicate by saying aye, or not indicate, stand up. Yeah. Okay, please be seated. The noes have it, the amendment fails.
I kind of like it now.
Now you like it?
Really? Can we clean it up and look at it again? It's been botched pretty bad. Can we have the language real quick, just for a second?
Just erase the whereas. We're basically to where we were in the first place without the second to the last resolved in it.
Where are we at in debate on the main question?
We're on the resolution.
Debate's wide open on the main question?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we got one more to speak against.
Are we out of fours?
Wait, amendment to the amendment. I'm sorry. Where are we on the? I got messed up. I had 3 amendments here. We got both left.
Everything's okay. I'd like to speak for adoption of the resolution then. Steve Evans, SD 28. I do think we need to, what's the word we changed? It's not unity. I learned a new word today. I've never used that one in my life. Thank you very much. Amity. Thank you. We do need to continue to encourage and educate. I really would have liked to have inserted the word educate into this and offer guidance and pray that Montgomery County can work out their issues. You do have remedies under Robert's rules to have a full meeting and take over the meeting if you have the votes. I'll tell you how to do it if you'd like some help. You do have remedies, but as we all have been made aware, it is not our position to police every county dispute. If we lay the groundwork and say the Republican Party of Texas is going to police a dispute, then, and I'm kind of speaking against, and the chairman's fixing to call me out of order. I'll get to the point. I can see it coming. But we can't lay the groundwork for every county that gets upset with their chair to come back and do the same thing. So I am in support of the resolution calling for unity, and I do pray amity. Thank you, members. I believe I have the floor, Galen. Thank you. I'm in support of the resolution, and let's move it down the road. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Anyone else to speak on the resolution as amended? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Please vote 1 for yes, 2 for no.
Mr. Chairman, I was running. I couldn't get to the microphone. Sorry.
Did you start? We opened it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Please vote 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for abstained. And this is on the resolution as amended, with the second to last paragraph crossed out. By a vote of 57-4, the resolution passes. Okay, moving on to the next one.
All right. So as I understand the sense of the body, we are against enmity, we are for amity, and we're lukewarm on unity. And once again, another reminder that you can send amendment text to cruzv@att.net, and it'll get up there a lot faster. So on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution reaffirming life in the womb as projected. As will be projected.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Israel Salinas, SD 27. I'd like to make an amendment to the first whereas to simply strike from the word since to the word fingernails just as a matter of redundancy. The first part of that text says everything that needs to be said, which is that the unborn of a sexually assault victim and the unborn of another woman are exactly the same.
Okay. The amendment would strike all of the words after since. Is there a second? No seconds? Okay, moving on. Is there anybody to speak in favor or against? Here, I know, we're moving to debate on the main resolution. Hearing none, we're now going to vote. Get your clickers. Vote 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for abstain, please. This is on the resolution, not the amendment, not anything else. The amendment did not receive a second, so we're voting on the resolution. Just click it, it'll switch over. So we have 60 votes for, 0 votes against, 1 abstention. The resolution passes.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution urging support for the Keep 9 Amendment to the U.S. Constitution as projected.
You're now debate. I'm sorry. It's been moved that the resolution urging support for the Keep 9 Amendment to the U.S. Constitution be adopted. Is there any debate? Hearing none, we're going to now move to vote on the resolution urging support for the Keep 9 Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Please use your clickers and vote 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for abstain. 59 ayes, 0 nays. The resolution passes.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution to defend medical freedom and codify informed consent as projected.
It's been moved that the resolution to defend medical freedom and codify informed consent be adopted. Is there any discussion?
It's not projected.
I know. We're moving, man. We're moving. Come on. Got it up there? Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Please press 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for abstain. Click it a couple times to make sure you get it too. Sixty-one ayes, 0 nays. The ayes have it, and the resolution's adopted.
And now for a resolution I think we've all been waiting for. And Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution calling for new leadership at the Republican National Committee, as projected.
People need patience. You know, it's a wonderful day. We're in a room with friends. There's a lot of amity in this room, not unity. It's been moved that the resolution "Time for New Leadership at the Republican National Committee" be adopted. The floor is open for discussion.
Yes, Rolando Garcia, SD 15. I submitted this resolution. I don't think I have to persuade any of you that the RNC needs new leadership. So this resolution is simply the RPT expressing its lack of confidence in Ronna McDaniel and urging our 3 RNC voting members, which is our state chairman and our national committee man and national committee woman, to vote to replace Ronna McDaniel. Well, we don't say who they should vote for. There is one challenger right now. There may be others, but you know, at this point, anyone with a pulse, I think, will be better than Ronna McDaniel. So we urge our 3 voting members to vote to replace Ronna McDaniel.
Mike McCloskey, Senate District 5. Since we have 1 voting member in the room, I thought it might be appropriate that maybe he could give us a little insight on this, on what's going on there.
I always love resolutions that I have to vote on urging myself to do stuff. That's how I like to conduct most of my day.
Well, how about telling us how the vote will be conducted and if it will be a secret ballot?
So I believe it will be a secret ballot. It's 168 members of the Republican National Committee. That's from every state and territory of the United States. And we'll be voting at the end of January. I think it's the week of the 24th to the 27th. Currently, I had publicly endorsed Congressman Lee Zeldin. He has since decided not to run. There are two or three challengers in the race, Harmeet Dillon, Mike Lindell, and Ronna McDaniel. I don't know if more will be jumping in. But we will be voting, and obviously your opinion's important to us, as I'm sure it is to the other two. Yes. Yeah, it's majority vote as many rounds as it takes, yes. Siri, yeah. Siri knew that ahead of time, but now we all know. So,
Mr. Chairman, point of information. Has the Republican Party of Texas been contacted by grassroots voters and activists with their opinions about this vote?
Yes. I have probably received, I'm going to say, probably 1,000 to 1,500 emails, which I've enjoyed going through every single one of them, which I did read every single one of them, by the way. And of them, they were, I'm trying to remember if I had one or two for Chairwoman McDaniel. But no, it was probably, I think it was either unanimous or one vote, or one person who was supporting the existing chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, I had one email that said, time for a new RNC chair, and then it said, please vote for Ronna McDaniel, get rid of Harmeet Dillon. So I don't know what you count that, but of the other 999 or so, they were unanimous. It's true.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of personal privilege, if I may just say that I got into the House of Representatives in 2010 when the issues were Obamacare and high spending. And we were 63 new congressmen, Republican congressmen, coming into office. This time around, it wasn't just Obamacare or other things. These are highly socialistic things, not just the invasion of our country by massive people from all over the world coming in, and no one saying boo about it except us Republicans. The issue is, why was it that we only had a trickle in the House and we lost control of the Senate, or a 50-50, at least a 50-50 in the Senate? Something is desperately wrong when we cannot energize the American public when the issues are so strong. So I urge you and the leadership going up to the RNC to find someone who's going to find a solution and make sure that we get this party right and that we win back the hearts and minds of the American people and the spirit of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear, hear. Anyone else? Hearing none, debate is closed. Please vote with your voting buttons. Please press 1. We're now voting on the resolution as a whole. Please press 1 for aye, 2 for nay, 3 to abstain. What's that? Okay. Okay. Without objection, we'll stipulate that the 1649 spelling of Weisenbaker is your actual spelled name on the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we possibly ask you to ask for a roll call vote instead of a secret vote on that when you get there?
You can ask. I don't know. I don't know if that's a possible thing to do, but I'll get with Robin and see if that's possible.
Just asking.
Sure. By a vote of 62-0, the resolution passes.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution calling to stop voter suppression in Harris County, as projected.
It's been moved that the resolution to stop voter suppression in Harris County be adopted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll close debate and vote on the resolution. Please press 1 to vote aye, 2 for nay, 3 to abstain. Bless you. Vote of 63-0, the resolution passes.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move adoption of the resolution that calls for Hidalgo County to adhere to the rules of the Republican Party of Texas as projected.
It's been moved that we adopt the adhering to the Republican Party of Texas rules resolution pertaining to Hidalgo County. Everyone else, don't worry about the rules. Orange County, it's Thunderdome. Don't worry about that. Just Hidalgo.
Yeah. Point of information.
Yes.
Can we have an understanding of what this is, or what rules they're not following?
No. Does anyone have any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Bruce Bishop, SD2.
Yes.
I would like to propose an amendment. I would like to amend this by adding the counties of Senate District 2.
Okay.
That would be Navarro, Ellis, Kaufman, Van Zant, Rockwall, Dallas, and...
Sure. Hold on.
No, you walked away, sorry. Thank you.
Just note.
Thank you. How was this sarcastic?
Just put in parentheses the
I would like to get an amendment to the amendment.
Don't
And
make
I don't
it
want someone else to cut off the amendment, because you're going to go
District 2. Okay.
I'm trying to add Montgomery County.
It's been moved that the counties of District 2 will also be required to follow rules. Is there a second? Second by Jerry. Is there any objection to having the counties of Senate District 2 follow the rules? Hearing none, the amendment's adopted. Anyone else want to have any county, individual,
Amendment
or
to amendment?
corporation follow the rules? Dale.
I'd like to add Montgomery County, please.
Second by Gwen. Any objection? Hearing none, Montgomery County's added. What else we got? Yes.
Naomi Narvaez, Senate District 25. I'd like to add Hayes County to that list.
Hayes. Here a second by, who was that? Chris. Oh, yeah, I figured that. Any objection adding Hayes County to the list? Hearing none, Hayes County's added to the list. Yes.
It's been fun, Mr. Chairman. It's 3 o'clock. We still have an agenda. I move to postpone any further consideration of this indefinitely.
Okay, do I hear a second? Second by everybody. All in favor of postponing consideration of this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Oh, yeah, because you got Montgomery on it. The ayes have it. The resolution fails.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the report of the Resolutions Committee.
Thank you. Oops, sorry, let me find my pages here. Oh, yeah, I got you. I call upon Jill Glover to present the Legislative Priorities Committee reports.
It is so hard following resolutions because y'all are just worn out and then you don't want to pay attention to anything else we do the rest of the afternoon. So I'm going to make this really quick. And can I just begin first of all by saying thank you real quick to my committee. Everybody stand up if you are on legislative priorities, please. Real quickly. Yes. You guys are awesome. And if you have on a red t-shirt that looks stand up. We want to see our red t-shirts. Woo! Awesome. Gaylyn, have you sold out, or you still have red t-shirts? Okay. You can take them home today. We are almost sold out though of our first order. We'll be ready to make a second order. We need at least 500 sold, and we are well on our way to that. All right, guys. Did everybody see the newspaper yesterday? We made the front page of the Austin American-Statesman for GOP opposes Democratic-led committees. Can y'all ever think of a time when a rule, a House rule has captured the fancy of the voters the way this particular legislative priority has? I mean, it is astounding to me, but I truly think it's because the average voter assumes when we elect Republicans to lead and be in charge that they're going to lead and be in charge, right? So I think that's why there is just such a surprise, and people are stunned when they find out that that is not the case. But hopefully we will change the minds in our legislature, and that will not be the way it is much longer. All right, what I want to do, if we could please have my slides, Mr. Troy, real quick. You got them? Let's go. All right, I wanted to give you all some talking points real quickly. If you are not reading my legislative priority reports that have started, and hopefully you are, the report that came out yesterday and the one just before Thanksgiving does have some talking points. So I'm not going to read through all of them. You can take a picture of the screen if you want to, or we'll put them on the Google Drive. But we do have very good reasons for this priority. And I do want to point out that when Democrats have leadership roles, such as committee chairs, they raise money off of that, and that helps put them back in office. And we don't want to do things to help put them back in office. As I said earlier, there are 8 current Democrat members of the LGBT caucus, so if any of those were to be on committees that get our bills, particularly about protecting children, I don't think they are going to be real excited about passing our bills. If you go to the next slide, please. One of the things that I am hearing frequently is, tell us what bills that the Democrat chaired committees have not passed. Well, we had some last session. We had a religious freedom bill that died in business and industry, chaired by Chris Turner. We had House Bill 4537, which was a school choice bill. And then I really want to point out House Bill 446, which was our strongest bill on protecting our monuments. That actually would have increased criminal penalties for damaging or destroying our monuments, and that was killed in criminal jurisprudence by Democrat Nicole Collier. So we did have legislative priority bill casualties last session, and so that is really important information, I think, to have if you have to make that argument. So there those are to help you. So yesterday, next slide, please. Oh, before I go on to tell you what we did in committee yesterday, your t-shirts. If you want to know where to order one and you haven't seen the link yet, we have partnered with Galen's little company called Divine Promotions, and the t-shirts are $15 a piece plus shipping. It's a one-time shipping charge, so you can order as many as you want, shipped to the same address. And then let's go to the next slide. We have got, and frankly, I think I've lost count of buses now. I think we have 6, maybe 7 buses now so far that people have told me about. In North Texas, we've got 3. We've already got a sold-out bus in Collin County, a sold-out bus in Denton County, a bus in Wise County that still has some seats on it. In the Dallas GOP is getting a bus, correct, Susan, and maybe 2 if you have enough demand, right? So let's fill 2 buses out of Dallas. We have got 2, let's see, we've got a bus in East Texas, one coming on the 10th, which is excellent, and one coming on the 12th. So that is a very good thing. And then, I don't know why the rest of Christie's email didn't get on there, but it's on the legislative priorities report if you want information on that. Are there any other buses that I haven't mentioned that people know about? Yes, ma'am. Okay, good. We have, oh, let me guess what your buses are being used for. Yes, okay. They're not transporting us. In other words, we're not transporting Republicans. Okay. So carpooling is great, but any other buses? Okay. You're working on one where? Oh, Harris County. More, okay, at least one, if not more. Okay, very, very excellent. So I really want to thank everybody for who's organizing those, and carpools are great too, so caravans, that will work. And I do want to say, because a couple of people have asked me and said, well, the speaker vote takes place on Monday, and maybe they'll have the rules debate, or I'm sorry, on Tuesday. Maybe they'll have the rules debate on Wednesday. So, you know, we can't say 100% that the vote will be on Thursday. We think it will. But it doesn't really matter, because regardless, the speaker will probably still decide on who he puts in those chair positions. And we want to show up in force still to make a statement about our priority and support him to follow our party platform by showing him how many of our Republicans across the state support this priority. All right, next slide, please. So yesterday, our committee met, and we approved 39 bills that have been filed so far prior to session opening up. This by no means is the end. This is just the beginning. So these are the bills that our committee said these clearly meet our priorities. And I'm going to let you take screenshots of these if you want to, and we'll make them available on the Google Drive if we could do that, Jen. But you can see for election integrity, we had 5. For border security, we had 3. And go ahead and go to the next one. Ban child gender modification, we have 7. Abolishing abortion, this is one that we are going to be on the defense, because there have been 12 bills filed to attack and claw back some of those gains that we made last session. So we are going to be holding on to what we did, as well as trying to improve on that priority. So we have got 3 filed so far that meet the priority language. Next slide. Stop sexualizing Texas kids. We have got 4, and I believe 3 of those, Kristen, are on repealing the obscenity exemption. Is that right? Oh, all 4 of them are repealing obscenity exemption. Excellent. Defending gun rights. Again, this is one that we are really going to be on defense. There have been 54 bills filed on gun rights, but most of them are not bills in our favor. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right? 7 bills filed that meet the priority language on 2A. And one more. Parental rights. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bills that meet that priority. Is that right? Yes, Tisha. Okay, thank you very much. So we are off to a good start with bills that meet our priority language. There are some bills that we like better than others. There are some bills that we might like to tweak or amend just a little bit, but overall, they all meet the priority language, and we commend and we thank each of these representatives and senators who have filed these bills, and so we are so appreciative of the work that they are beginning to do to meet our legislative priorities. I do want to just kind of wrap it up with a couple of things. First of all, I want to shout out to the YRs for their legislative priorities this session. Yesterday, we had Edgar Pacheco, and if I'm Pacheco, thank you. I am totally messing up your name, but right there in the back, I want everybody to give them a round of applause. And I got a text from Matt Dorsey with the YRs, I think at y'all's convention, and he said, you're gonna love our legislative priorities. And when I got the full list, I could not have been any happier. And so Edgar, thank you so much for coming yesterday. You did a fantastic job presenting to our committee and telling us a little bit about the work y'all had done. And we so look forward to working with the YRs this upcoming legislative session. And I know you were down in Austin a lot at the Capitol last session, and I know you will be again. And thank you again. And please express to the YRs our appreciation. So thank you. And then finally, my legislative priority report has started. So please check your email. Has everybody seen it? Yes? Okay. So if you're not getting it in your email, go to the website, go look under #LegPriorities. You'll see the sign up. Please send that out to your precinct chairs, to your delegates, anybody, to your clubs, everybody in your district, because I am going to be giving action items on our various priorities. Obviously, we're starting with banning Democrat chairs. We're focusing on that right now because that one's coming up very, very quickly. But thank you guys. Thank you for supporting our priorities so much. And I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Senator Hall because he has really excellent bills filed for our election integrity priority. And I know that many of you heard from him yesterday in election integrity and in LP committee, but I wanted everybody to hear and just give him a couple more minutes to summarize and tell us about those bills. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Senator Hall.
Thank you, Jill, very much for what you did. I do want to say, but first I got to tell you, I cannot get over how happy I am to see this SREC and the leadership that we have that actually takes this party serious of having a role to play in our government, because you do. I want to thank you guys. It is the leadership, Matt, that you have played. Dana, your leadership has helped make this happen, and you guys being here. And we just got to keep this rolling. Let me tell you real quick what she was talking about, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the election issue is I've been working this now for a while, very deep, and I will tell you the problem we have is that we have a system that has no accountability, we have an unknown accuracy, and is totally non-transparent. The only two things we know about our election system that we can say with any degree of confidence is that during the election period, some number of people actually showed up and voted, and when it was over with, the government announced who won. We'd have no knowledge of what happened between those two events, and we have to change that. We have a system that has evolved over the years. It is extremely complicated, and I'm not talking about something that is vulnerable to fraud, but just good people trying to work it, trying to do a good job. It is so complicated that mistakes can be made that change the outcome of it. We don't need that. We need to simplify this. It has grown over time like Topsy. With every time technology changed or something new came about, we added it to it. We need to change that. Let me give you the highlights of what's in the bill because I don't want to take much too. One of the biggest problems we have is a 3-day gap between early voting and election day. We need to eliminate that and go to a 10-day voting event, period. All under the same rules. We use the same rules as we have on election day. We need to streamline the process and simplify it. We need to have hand-marked paper ballots and eliminate county-wide voting. We need to have a verification at the county level when they have collated all the votes from the precincts, that before they pass them on to the state, that they verify that the numbers they have are exactly what came from the polling locations. And once it goes to the state, before the state verifies that this is our final vote, they have to once again verify that their numbers are made up of numbers that are consistent with what's in each of the polling locations. We don't do any of that today. It just gets passed forward, and if you study the data, you'll see that we have many a county in which the vote in the precinct, the vote at the county level, and the vote that's reported at the state level are all different numbers. And so that is a good indication of the inaccuracy of it. And on mail-in ballots, we need to change what we're doing. The only folks that need to get a mail-in ballot are our military, disabled, and those who will sign an affidavit that they're out of the district the entire voting period. Period. Just because you're over 65 does not mean you get a ballot in there. If you can go to Walmart, you can show up at the polls to vote. All right? So that's the highlight of it. The biggest problem we have to overcome is that most people don't understand we have a problem. They look around and say, gee, they're elected. I mean, it worked. It's over. Nobody's shown any evidence. It's because you can't collect it. Well, we're going to have that. We're putting together reports from people, affidavits. It's almost a foot high in 8.5 by 11 single sheets of paper, affidavits of people who saw something and wanted to report on it. We're putting it into a database. It will be available sometime soon. It grows because now that people know about it, we're getting more, and I'll tell you that if you know of somebody or something that has seen as a questionable event, write it down and send it to us, and we'll include it in the database, because I know we can't collect much hard evidence, but this will be the indication so folks will understand that we have to change the system. We have to make it simple and consistent throughout the state. Looking at that ballot to be common across the states and counted at the precinct level with a dumb, non-programmable optical reader that we verify with random audits. And a lot more I could talk about it, but I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to get your support behind it, and let's get this thing passed and get us an election that we can all count on. God bless you. God bless Texas. Thank you, man.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Karen Marshall, SD 26. I'd like to request a point of personal privilege. 'Tis the season, goodwill towards men. I think it would be fantastic and really increase the goodwill in this room if we were to hear from Edgar Pacheco about what the priorities of the Young Republicans are, for all of the people in the room who aren't versed in what the Young Republicans do and what they're all about and their legislative priorities and the efforts they make.
Sure. Do you want to take a couple minutes?
I believe he is amenable.
There's no objection. Hearing none. Do you want to, is it easiest with the stand, or do you want to tilt the stand now? I can do this.
Here you go.
much then to the entire SREC. It's a privilege to be speaking before you, not just as a young Republican, but also as a Republican myself. And as you can, as we can all tell, we're facing unprecedented times, and it is an important part of not just our party, but our organization as the Young Republicans to be able to more closely, I guess, align and support not just our Republican priorities, but support conservative values across our entire state of Texas, and making sure that our Republican representatives are out there on the front line fighting for our priorities. And so I'm just going to give a brief update on kind of how we as YRs have been able to develop our current policy positions, our current priorities. And that was through a survey that was conducted back in between the months of June all the way, I believe, till a bit before our convention in September. And we took a poll with responses of approximately 300 members of our organization. And I just got actually updated numbers from our organization this morning, and we have grown up to be close to 2,000 members, approximately 2,000 members across this entire state. YRs represented from across over 30 clubs in our entire state. And so we are excited to be able not just to go with it on our own, but be able to continue working together. And I believe, as one of our RPT SREC members said, we have a lot of more things that unite us than divide us. And so that was reflective in this session's legislative priorities, which I will name, so you can kind of take notes, and then I'll be here so we can ask questions. I'll provide answers to the best of my ability. But first one is parental rights in education. Second one will be school choice. Number 3 will be ban COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Number 4 will be securing our border and protecting all Texans. Number 5 will be banning men and women's sports. And number 6 will be ending child gender modification. And so, yes, come on. We are excited to continue this partnership with the RPT. And, just from my own personal experience, Republicans are always on the right side of the issues. And our goal as Young Republicans is to continue working, alongside the RPT, TFRW, and all our other partner organizations that make up this great Republican Party of Texas, and continue working hard towards one common goal, and that is to continue preserving our conservative values in this state, because as Texas goes, so goes the nation. So let's give it a round of applause to all our YRs, our policy director, Peyton LaBalve, our chairman, Joaquin Hernandez, and all of the executive committee at our Texas YRs. I am grateful to be able to stand before you today. Thank you very much for the time you have given us, to be here, and I appreciate all of the hard work that the SREC does on behalf of all the Republicans in this entire state. So thank you very much, and God bless you. God bless Texas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fernando Trevino, do you have the audit committee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am here, Virgil. I heard you. So as a quick reminder, the audit committee is a special committee. So there's 3 of us that were appointed by the RNC members. So it's myself, Susan Wright, and Gail Stanart, usually next to me, but she's on the other side of the room. The 3 of us are on the audit committee. We don't exactly sit around going through all the parties' financials. Thankfully, we contract that out to a group of CPAs, Ashley and Associates. I believe Jeremy is still here. He'll give us a recap of what exactly they went through.
Thank you very much, Fernando. My name is Jeremy Myers. I am a senior audit manager with Ashley Associates. We do the parties' audits each year. They're presented on a cash basis. They're comparable. So 21 and 20 are going to be next to each other. As well, the back of the audit, we have a 5-year kind of historical run of the party. Given the on years and off years and different races that happen, we like to present that schedule so you can kind of see how you compared to the last time this sort of year happened. So 21 was an off year after a presidential election. So typically, not a great year. Y'all raised $1.5 million more than y'all did in 2017 after that past presidential election. So pretty good. So after that, you know, it was 21 as a primary year. A lot of stuff went on. So there were funds spent in the primary. Kind of net position at the end of the period, your net income per se was about $800,000 negative, which is normal because you receive a lot of money in the even year for the primary that then goes against as an expense in 21. So nothing wrong there. That's normally how those years happen. The main thing for the audit is we didn't have any material adjustments. It was a clean opinion. Loved working with John and his team and the outside compliance folks for the last couple years. So y'all have had an outside compliance and bookkeeping service for the last 2 years, working really well. Really enjoy working with them. They provided everything we needed to do the audit. The audit was finalized in September 1st actually. So it was a clean opinion as it has been probably for the last decade. So thank y'all very much.
Thank you. I call upon Alma Jackson to present the Engagement Special Committee report.
We had a meeting yesterday, and will all my committee members please stand? Engagement committee members. Thank you. They're a great group. Hardworking. I received reports from each one of them about what they've been doing since the September meeting. They each submitted a report. And then we had Mr. Howard Barker, raise your hand. He presented a great, extensive proposal or a plan to try to establish conservative Republican clubs for high schools. Now, we've already had these. They do exist, but there are very, very few of them. So he wants to really promote that and get that stronger. And we all know that our young people need a lot of direction. They need mentoring, and they need to learn what the issues are so they can vote intelligently as they grow up. So this effort is huge. Howard put together an extensive report. Look at this. It goes on and on, why we're doing it, why, what would we do, where would we do this? It goes on and on. I don't know how many pages he included, but he did a very good job of putting this together. Thank you, Howard. His proposal is a great idea. We do need our high school students involved. We need our younger people participating in the party. And he listed high schools in the largest counties in Texas to start with because they are the biggest markets to bring in the most high school students. That doesn't mean we wish to ignore any of the rural counties, but we figured we could get it started in the larger counties. Some of you have already received phone calls from him. This is his baby. I told him, you run with it. I didn't have this baby. It's yours. I will help him. I'm very involved doing what I do, engagement, and you know there's opportunities for engagement everywhere. I was talking to a janitor the other day, and he says, ma'am, what party do you work for? And I told him, and he said, well, I don't know anything about parties. So I gave him my phone number. I said, you call me. I'll meet with you and we'll talk. The opportunities are everywhere. We need to find sponsors to head up this effort in the different high schools. A sponsor could be a teacher. It could be a parent of a high school student, a precinct chairman. It could be any of you in this room. It has to be someone with time to spend with students to educate them on our party and why we are the better party for society. We are, after all, the party of opportunity. We are the better party. We are the more moral party, and we are the more intelligent one. Just look at the war on wisdom that they have going. Ridiculous. We had a lot of discussion. One of the biggest topics was, well, do we really want to reinvent the wheel? And what that meant was he brought up other organizations that are already working with youth, but not all of them are doing a great job, or they have dwindled down. We need to resuscitate this, right, Howard? And we talked about Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, how successful he has been in colleges, and it was suggested that maybe we should participate with them instead of starting up our own. I'm all for starting up our own, but we need to divide the work. One person cannot do this. Howard can't do this alone. We need this across the state. It's a great idea. We must reach our youth. We concluded with suggesting that Howard send out an email to all SREC members summarizing his idea, his plan, and his suggestions, along with a list of criteria of what a sponsor of such a high school club should meet. The point is to encourage, mentor, and lead young minds to understand issues so that they can become good, effective leaders in the future. We're asking each of you to consider identifying individuals who would be interested in doing this. It doesn't have to be you, but if you want it to be you, go at it. Call Howard. We all have different strengths, different gifts, and some of us are better suited to different tasks or leadership positions. So it's not just for anyone who would be suited to lead high school students. You have to have a lot of patience, a lot of maturity, and a lot of discipline. Because we were all high school students at one time, and I remember my youth. I was not always a conservative. I was very liberal until God got a hold of me. Thank you, Lord. So, if you can suggest anyone who can do this work, I'm asking you to contact Howard. He's the leader of this effort, and we're all behind him. We want to see it succeed. And remember that it's not only high school students. We're reaching out to anyone who is interested, who wants to learn why this country is so upside down. I'll tell you, it's not because of Republicans, it's liberals in charge. We also have to remember that our high school students and younger people are indoctrinated, and we have to turn them away from that. I was with a group of college students in San Antonio when I was vice chairman, speaking to college Republicans, and one of them was talking about how great socialism is. I was stunned. So I asked him, well, what do you think of Venezuela? And he said, what's Venezuela? So we do have a lot of work to do. I worked the polls on election day. There were 2 high school students who showed up, and they were talking to me, and I conversed with them. And this young man was telling me what a strong Republican he was and how he loved Mitt Romney. Boy, did I want to have a talk with him. I couldn't. I was very busy. But I did get his phone number. We exchanged numbers, and I'm going to work with him. You know, they need mentoring. They need to understand why we believe what we believe and why we conserve ideas and morals that were good for the country. That's what a conservative is. A conservative doesn't change from day to day. You live a conservative lifestyle. So, I did do a pastor's group last week with the Pastors Council, Dave Welch from Houston. We invited about 60 pastors, and you know, I understand that we're getting into Christmas. People are tired after the elections. I know I'm tired. I just need more vitamins, exercise, and rest. And I'm sure all of you are too. We have worked. It's in our blood, it seems like, because we love America. But out of 60 pastors that were invited, 2 showed up. It made me very sad. We had 8 or 9 pastors there, but the others were friends that I had invited that I work with. They were not new pastors. But I'll tell you what, we put on a little presentation. I invited a lot of people that have shown interest in our party. They're not really Republicans, but they're fed up with the Democrat Party. And that's what I'm trying to reach, those that we don't already have. We need to grow this party. We need to be in the majority. Anyway, these two pastors, after the presentation, they approached me and they thanked me, and they said that the things that I said to the attendees struck them because they had never heard anyone talk about the Republican Party the way I did and why we should be voting Republican. Now, I'm really not as dumb as I look, but I did bring out some good points. I'm not a professional speaker. I'm as grassroots as you can get. But if just the simple things I could tell these pastors affected them, I mean, imagine what we can all do. Keep it up. Stay engaged. There's opportunities everywhere. I look forward to seeing each of you next year. I wish you a very healthy, wonderful Christmas. Be safe until next year. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. We all appreciate it. One quick item, if there's no objection, I want to go back to the audit report. We just have something we need to approve real quick. Under Article 8, Section 2C, we do need to approve the audit committee report. If there's no objection, we'll approve the report. Hearing none, the report is approved. Next is Local Government Committee. I call upon Rolando Garcia. You may present it in song if you wish.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear me sing. Okay, well, this shouldn't take too long. There's two items I wanted to present to the body, just kind of working documents that will help us as we go into the May local elections. Based on the feedback we got at the last SREC meeting where we presented endorsements for so-called nonpartisan offices, a lot of SRECs expressed that we don't have enough information about these candidates. I mean, yes, they've been endorsed by their county party, but that we don't have anything else to go by. So to help that, we wanted to create an endorsement application. Now, before I get into that, the committee was very clear. We are not the primary vetter of these candidates. We're not holding, panel interviews. We're not going to have these lengthy questionnaires on every issue under the sun. Our role is simply that when a county has endorsed a local candidate and then they then also seek the RPT endorsement, we at least have something in writing, something in, a paper trail. One, showing their primary history, showing them in writing, committing to certain key tenets of our principles and our platform. Something about, 2 pages, front and back. Again, our role is not necessarily to second guess whether the county chose the right candidate. Our role is simply to make sure that, the county party didn't goof and endorse someone who was totally inappropriate. So we wanted to create this application, and you can pull it up. Pull up the application first. Is that it? Oh, okay. I can't even, oh, there it is. No, that's the endorsement agreement. Pull up the application, the other document. There were two in the email I sent you. 2 PDF documents. Okay, well, while he's pulling it up, again, we wanted to keep it really simple. There's some general questions we ask, like, when was the last time, have you ever donated to a Democrat candidate? Have you voted in a Democrat primary? And of course, we'll use their VUID and look up their voting history. We also came up with a few specific questions for both city council and school board candidates. Again, we wanted to keep this short. We wanted to ask like 4 or 5 key questions, things that we need their commitment in writing on. We only did city council and school board because I anticipate those are the only endorsement requests we'll be dealing with, although maybe someone running for water board might ask for an endorsement. And if that happens, we'll come up with some other application. But for right now, we'll just deal with city council and school board. Now, this is a working document. It's a work in progress. I think we covered the main bases, things that we need to know. But if there is some issue that is make or break for you, like, hey, we have to know this about a candidate before we can endorse them, let me know and we can adjust that. Ideally, we would send these out, county chairs would have this available, so as soon as their county executive committee votes to endorse, they could give this document to the candidate if they would also follow up with an RPT endorsement. So when we're meeting and we bring an endorsement resolution, you will have that in front of you to say, well, yes, this person really is a Republican. Now, also, I want to say that this application in no way changes the endorsement process. As of now, the only way to endorse is for someone to bring a resolution to the resolutions committee, and then it is brought to the full body, or not to suspend the rules and come straight to the body. But the bottom line is the only way to endorse is for this body to vote on a resolution. This doesn't change any of that. This is just an extra information at your disposal so that you can feel good when you vote to endorse these candidates. The other document we wanted to do was an endorsement agreement. We based this on a document that we use that the Harris County Republican Party uses when we endorse local candidates. We just want them to sign. If we vote to endorse someone, we just want to make this clear, and there's a couple things we wanted to make clear. One, you're free to use our logo and to claim our endorsement in your campaign materials. 2, we are not obligated to provide any resources to your campaign. We may, RPT may, at its discretion. The reason we did that, and I know we had a long discussion at the last meeting about, no, we generally don't provide financial resources, but there's type of intangible support that we can provide that doesn't cost us money, like social media, email, texting, and use of our bulk mail rate. Those are things that don't necessarily cost us money, but it could cost us staff time. So we don't want to obligate ourselves to commit to using even tangible resources for every candidate we endorse. I don't think we're going to be endorsing that many in May, but I just wanted to leave that out. So we say RPT may provide those resources at its discretion, but we're not obligated. And the third thing is, it also gives us an out if we have to retract the endorsement. If they do something or some criminal conviction or something else comes out that was not disclosed during vetting and that would embarrass the party. And this endorsement agreement would come into effect with the endorsement resolution. So that when an endorsement resolution comes up at our next meeting, it would stipulate that the endorsement is only in effect once the candidate signs this endorsement agreement. And you can look over it, and again, this is not final. We would need to have something finalized before we vote on endorsements at our next SREC meeting. But I think we've covered the bases, and what I told the committee is what I'll tell you. We can change if they have problems. If we have special cases that come up for this May cycle that requires a change in our application process or a change in the endorsement policy, we can do that. This whole process, it's still relatively new for the party to make endorsements in so-called nonpartisan races. So we're learning as we're going, and these 2 documents are in fact a product of learning as we're going, and these can be refined. And again, I anticipate this happening at, I believe our next SREC meeting is in March. So presumably, hopefully, maybe county parties would have endorsed, and we will have endorsement resolutions. However, given that the election is in May, I think filing is deadline is in January. The election is in May. There may, I'm sorry? Okay, February 17th. So the county parties may not have that much time to consider endorsements. The body may want to consider a special Zoom meeting in April if there are a lot of endorsement requests. And that's something that, again, that can be decided later. But as far as today, I just wanted to put these 2 documents in front of you. And again, these are working documents. If there's something on the application that you see, like, oh, there's something missing that we have to know, let me know. And that's all I have.
Next, I call upon Galen Devine to present the convention events special committee report. Definitely don't want to prevent the convention. That would not be constructive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the authority to prevent the convention. So we, the Convention Planning Committee for 2024, which is in San Antonio, we met on Thursday. We did a working group. Thank you, Steve Evans brought us all these gigantic drawings, CAD drawings, so we could draw out the space and make sure that we have enough space for everyone to be in their rooms and be in their places and us have great events. This time at San Antonio, we do have the entire convention center to ourselves. So that is exciting, and we will do a site survey in January because I am visual, and there are some rooms that I want to go see them and see what they are and what they can be used for. So we did that on Thursday. Yesterday, we worked on AV and our huge wish list that we're gonna have for the things that we want to present for convention. We are planning on going out for RFP for convention, so our wish list is big, and we're excited about the information that we're gathering to make it a great convention for everyone. I do want to address, because I've gotten several requests for people to be on our committee that are outside of the SREC body. So I do want to address that we are not accepting outside people right now. You will be welcome later, and your input is welcome if you have things that, you know, happened at a convention that you want us to consider to do or not do, or things that happened or didn't happen. We are taking information, but that really is the stage that we're in. We are super grateful and blessed that Chairman Rinaldi made this committee this early. And so we are in a gathering stage of information, doing our due diligence, making sure that we have the best convention possible. So we don't want to we're not going to accept outside people until after we get through the RFP. So please don't discourage people from, you know, getting on the committee, but please do have them send us information, but help us with that. So, because a lot of times, especially in Bexar County, you know the people, you know they've come to you and they want to be on this committee, and they don't understand why I've told them no, even though I've told them exactly what I've told you. So please help me with that so they're not mad right off the bat at me or our committee. And that's probably about it. I'd like for my committee to stand. They are working hard even through elections and runoffs and everything else going on in our lives. We are committed to working on this now. Please stand if you're on the convention committee, pretty please. Hello, hello. So, and Grace Jones is on that committee as well. She is gone. But we, again, send us notes, send us things. I learned a lot of things Friday that I didn't know was going on even in Houston. So I'm a big believer in you don't know what you don't know. So if you send me things, we will add it. We have a list. Mine and Grace's greatest fear is that we forget something or we miss something. So please help us. It really is everyone's convention, and so everyone can take ownership in that, and our committee is just the steering of that. So we love your input, and I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Call upon Matt Patrick to present the report of the Platform Advocacy Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Platform Advocacy Committee has met 4 times just a couple of times over Zoom. We're really still just getting started still. But we've made good progress already with picking out individual planks that we're going to support. And at our meeting yesterday, we're going through and just working on who is going to help us sponsor those bills. We're still making a lot of those connections. And also want to just say thank you to Tom Nobus for the work that he does with respect to putting, where's Tom? Where's Tom? Or are you? Way over there. For putting together what you do for legislative priorities, because that's will be very helpful to us too, and we may be able to short circuit our efforts in terms of writing planks, because we'll just piggyback off what LP does so that we can find bills that have already been written that fulfill what we're trying to do as well. So that's going pretty well, we think. We're obviously coming up into the session starting, so our next meetings, we have Zoom call meetings the first and third Tuesday of every month. So we will have one on the 20th of December is our next one at 5 p.m. And then it'll be January before we have a follow-up meeting. And we'll adjust our schedule if necessary once we get into session. But that's all I have. If there's any questions, let me know. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks.
Okay. Next is the report of candidate development. I don't think Morgan Graham's here. No one to give the report. Okay. We'll move on, and wrapping it up, any unfinished business? No unfinished business. Moving on. Is there any new business to come before the committee? Yes.
Andy Hopper, Dave Wiley, SD12. I move to suspend Article 7, Section 8F, Paragraph 3 of the SREC bylaws to consider the very non-controversial resolution submitted by Texas Eagle Forum on the fresh and courageous leadership for U.S. House of Representatives.
All in favor of move it down. All in favor of suspending the rules to take up the resolution regarding fresh and courageous leadership for the U.S. House of Representatives, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. The noes have it. The motion fails. Any other new business? Moving on to announcements. The next meeting is in March. We haven't set the date yet, but we'll let you know when it comes. Also, if you forgot to check out of your room, make sure you check out of your room. Should have been done a while ago, and I want to make sure everybody remembers so they can clean it. Lastly, everybody in a no Dem chair shirt, can you join Jill so you guys can take a picture really quickly at the end of the meeting? If they're being, yes.
Mr. Chairman, in my role as Sergeant at Arms, if I could ask everyone to leave their clickers at their seat, and I will pick them up, and I want to wish everybody a blessed and Merry Christmas.
Right. There being no further business to come before the body at this time, if there's no objection, the meeting will be adjourned. Hearing none, have a Merry, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you soon.